Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to another daily movie review, and today we're going to be talking about 1973's Fantastic Planet, or if you're a Frenchie, La Planète Sauvage. The description is, on a faraway planet where blue giants rule, oppressed humanoids rebel against their machine-like leaders. The film is directed by René, Laloux. It's adapted from a novel by Stephen Wool by Roland Tupor. And I can't say the actors because I did not watch the American dub. I watched the original French dub. This was a French Czechoslovakian kind of co-production. It was conceived in France, and obviously all the main creatives were from France, the writers and whatnot. But it was actually completely animated in Czechoslovakia. It was really interesting to see that. And I had always seen like the poster for this. I've been looking at this movie for years, and I just never had gotten around to watching it. And last night, I just kind of put it on randomly. I was looking for something that was a little short. This is only about 72 minutes long. I was like, there we go. Boom. Perfect time. And I got to sit around with my 3-year-old kid, and we watched Fantastic Planet. And he loved it. He loved the animation. The animation's got this really cool just style to it. Just very unique, very idiosyncratic. And that is kind of the big showpiece of the movie. Because if you're familiar with a lot of the short sci-fi stuff, a lot of the stuff that had been written, post 1901, I think you're going to be very familiar with this type of story. It's about, oppressed people rising up. And they actually have a lot of allusions to a lot of real life atrocities that happen. Because you have like the humanoid people that are these little tiny people. They're called the Oms, and they're like a slave race. And they're ruled over by these giant blue aliens called drags. Well, I guess you wouldn't call them aliens. I guess you wouldn't, because this is where they're from. They're on the planet Yam. And it's very much just kind of almost like a typical science fiction allegory type of story. But I think the animation really puts it over the top, and it makes it something special. And it also, even though those things those kind of allegories are wrote in science fiction, I think it doesn't mean they're not worthwhile, and it doesn't mean they're not worth thinking about. Just the way that oppressed people can kind of become better when they're able to and rise up against their kind of fascist or dictatorial leadership, and how that kind of comes about. And it does it in a just very simple, elegant way. Because the main character is kind of kept as a tur, is kind of kept as like a pet by one of these drag aristocracy, and he somehow is able to figure out how to educate himself by using the drag tech to also get the education, because they do this thing where they like beam the information into your brain, and then it's just there forever. Really, really cool. I wish I could do that. It's kind of like the Matrix. It's like when Neo would get plugged in and he learned karate. And that's what where he learned how to fly a plane or something. It's kind of like that. And once Tur becomes kind of self-actualized, once he starts having awareness of what's going on, he basically sets out on trying to free his people, and he has to do it by kind of passing on knowledge, perspective to other people, so they can, because everybody has the capacity to learn, everybody has the capacity to educate themselves, and that is the secret to understanding your own self-worth. And at the end of the day, I think that's kind of what the story is about. Even though it is about revolution and rising up, at the end of the day, it's about what allows you to self-actualize, what allows you to better yourself in kind of a broad, general way. And education and knowledge is a big part of that. What you are allowed to experience, what are you allowed to pass on to other beings, other people, which actually, honestly, is kind of apropos for today's world as we move into a world that feels like it's more and more whitewashed, more and more censored, and things are, we're not allowed to see things unless somebody explains it to us. We're not allowed to have our own thoughts and our own notions. So in a weird way, it actually kind of felt relevant to today. And it's something to keep in your mind, I suppose, right? What is worth protecting when it comes to this stuff? What is a culture? What does that stuff mean? Because the Oms are kind of trying to create their own culture. And the way that the drags have done it in the past is basically they would do a purge. they would kill off a bunch of the Alms when after too many cycles, which I guess would mean generations, maybe. I mean, they even get to the point at the end of the movie where they're like, well, we can't let them go 3 generations because they get too organized. They figure too much stuff out. So we're gonna do a cleansing like every 2 times a cycle, 3 times a cycle. We cannot let them develop, basically. And then they have kind of the people that they're like the ones that they have at their palaces and stuff that are more endeared to them, that they will allow to keep living. And it just struck me as like I said, like it's relevant. It's interesting, the way the film goes about doing it, because it's pretty much almost entirely a visual experience. Everything is communicated to you visually. There isn't a ton of dialogue at all, which was good for my kid because we watched it in French. The copy we have was in French, so we couldn't watch like the English dub, because normally I would probably watch the English dub just for my kid, but it wasn't available to us. But it didn't really matter. You could completely follow along with this story on mute. It does a really great job of communicating all of its themes, all of just the moment-to-moment plot stuff. Like, you get it just from watching the movie. It doesn't have to tell you. It embraced the format, which is cool, because if you were to think about this being kind of a loose adaptation of every science fiction short story written the 100 years prior to this was made, those things can be a little wordy. They can be over-explanatory. This one kind of eschews that, and it's more confident and comfortable with what it's trying to do. Feels very confident, very assured. And they're telling a righteous story. And there's parts of the movie that are actually pretty heartbreaking. They're pretty intense. Like there's when the Alms are about to be beset upon by the drags, and they're gonna exterminate a whole bunch of them. There's gonna be like a mass genocide. Definitely a lot of allusions to things that happened in during the Communist Revolution. Things that happened, like the Holocaust, is invoked a little bit. Some pretty intense stuff, and I think the movie does a great job of tastefully doing those things and not also rubbing your face in it. They're confident enough that they probably at the time too, closer in history to those things actually happening, but also they just respect the fact that you probably know about this stuff, and they don't need to tell you. They don't need to point it out to you. And as I get older, that's something I appreciate so much in filmmakers and storytelling. Just don't fucking rub my face in it. Let me have that sense of discovery, And I think that Fantastic Planet is a movie that does allow you to feel that way. And I like that it's, it does the thing that all great sci-fi does. Things like, like Star Trek. Yes, I watch Star Trek sometimes. But they're grand allegories for these kind of philosophical conversations that you can have just about human nature and existence. And this does that really, really well. It's science fiction, if it has any real value as a genre, is that it allows that separation between your values and your life and something fantastical. So it can use something fantastical and extreme to make a larger, more prescient, more personal point. And Fantastic Planet's got all over that. I really loved it. I can't wait to watch it again. I'll probably watch it again a bunch because I have a kid. And I'd much rather watch this than watch Lego Batman again. If I could get my kid to watch Fantastic Planet every day, I think I'll be doing okay. Good for me, right? Good for me, pretentious smart dad. Oh, yeah. Then we'll go listen to some classical music. Get real fucking wild. But yeah, this is a great movie. If you've never seen it, I recommend it. It's on HBO Max right now. It's probably on the Criterion channel if you have that as well. I watched it on HBO Max. It's the Criterion version of the movie, their restoration. I would love to pick it up because I would love to understand some of the production history of this. That would be really cool. I would love if there was a deep behind the scenes, showing me the process of the animation. Because as I've become an adult, I've gotten way, way more into animation for some reason. I don't know why. Just like the process of it, I just find it very fascinating. Not so much the modern animation, not so much CGI, computer generated movies, but all the way up until just like all the Disney hand-drawn stuff. It's kind of an impressive artistic feat, in my opinion. And Fantastic Planet stood out. Like, it feels really, it's like somewhere between like looking at like a children's storybook and like Ralph Bashki, like the guy who did the Lord of the Rings with all the rotoscoping, the old animated Lord of the Rings movie, with all the, they would rotoscope actors. And it just has this really unique look. You're really kind of captivated by the visuals and by the creativity of the monsters and the world that takes place on this planet Yam. It really feels really well realized. There's something kind of, I don't know what the right word is, kind of barren about the world, but also like in a way that feels mannered and for a purpose. And yeah, I can't say much. Can't tell you how much you should watch it. There you go. I got a sentence out there. I said a word. I said some words together. Yeah, I can't tell you how much I enjoyed it. It's one of the more pleasant surprises I've had in the past year. And I can't wait to revisit it, like I said. All right, everybody, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you would like to know more about Zoobox, you want to keep up to date with everything Zoobox, there are links in the description for Facebook, for Instagram, for my personal Twitter. And also, if you would like to make a request, you want to hear what I have to say about something that you like, leave it in the comments and I'll put it on the list. All right, everybody, have a good one. I'll talk to you tomorrow.